Standards-based grading with the focus on Fix 8 unclear measures. Fix 8 states, don't assign grades using inappropriate or unclear performance standards. Provide clear descriptions of achievement of expectations. This is a very long chapter, pretty hard to summarize, but I think our district has a pretty good start with the designing of the rubrics to help us measure these standards. You will notice that in a traditional grade book, where we enter only one score for an entire assignment that may measure lots of different standards, you're blending all these into one unclear measurement instead of separating them out. We'll see how this works in the grade book. So let's open the grade book. Make sure you're in your current class and in your current section and your term. We only have one. Notice the shortcut. I'll click the plus to add an assignment because we do have our categories down here. So I'll click plus. And we are going to call this week 5. And this calls the checkpoint that we discussed in our PLCs and decided that we would use into our categories. So I'm going to call that one of our Common Core formative things, or whatever you wanted to call that. I'm going to change the date on that to this week. We decided to do it on the 16th of the week. I'm going to pick the standards, and this was, let's see, oops, I better expand it so we can see. I'm going to think this was a writing activity, so I'm going to come down to my W's. And we were looking basically at, maybe we're doing informative examples. So I'm going to take these 3 specific standards and click Save. I'm going to close this up. You notice that our standard comes up there with the standards drawer. They are in order of dates. I named this one before this. They appear in that order. I will click on my standards drawer. It opens up to my 3 standards. To enter scores, you have 2 options. You have the quick fill. If you right click, of course if I hover over this, you will also see the title of the standard. I'll move over. This is develop topics with relevant facts. This is use appropriate transitions. I'm going to go back to the first one, and let's say I can do a quick fill, and let's say they all had a 2.5. I can come back and change a couple of these to what I felt those students had, and your average always gets a 3 here, or we can just enter the scores in. Let me enter another one for Nick. I'm just going to quick fill. They all got transitions well. Therefore, when I hit save, you can see that all the standards are now listed in there. To help me know that these are all completed, I can click in that first column. If I hit period, return, period, return. If you have lots of students, you can actually right click on the top, quick fill, fill scores, and say they're all collected, and click OK. They all get checks. So there's either the quick fill or periods. I will now hit save, and then I can close the drawer, and those grades will then automatically be calculated into my final grade for at the end of the term. I can now start building my body of evidence. So to wrap this up, grades are broken when they are any of the following occurs: when standards and levels are not clearly described, when the standards and levels are not shared at the beginning, students don't know, when the achievement are unclear or inappropriate, when the cutoff scores are arbitrary, picking this number or that number, when cutoffs are profoundly cross classrooms from one classroom to the other classroom. That's why it's so important in our PLCs to be sharing and discussing our rubrics and how we're scoring our papers, and looking at exemplary papers and doing a study and getting stronger and more tight on what we expect students to be able to do.